and just try and educate yourself with a lot of different tools and resources. Don't just go to one resource or one coach and think that, they know everything. I'm going to do everything just like they did and I'm going to be successful, because I guarantee that is a guarantee for you to be unsuccessful if you do that. So, because what works for one person, what works for me or what works for you, Cecil, doesn't work for everybody. And so it's important that you sort of look around at what everybody is doing, educate yourself from different areas, and find what makes you tick, what you're excited about, and what you want to continue to improve on.
All right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of Dive into Real Estate Investing Newbies Podcast. I have a special guest today. His name is Cody Horn. Cody stays in the same hometown as me in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Just a little bit about Cody. Cody has started Empire Trading. It's a professional full-service real estate solution firm that buys, sells, and rents properties throughout Baton Rouge and surrounding areas. They specialize in buying distressed property homes at significant discounts. They renovate, resell them to retail home buyers and investors as turnkey rental properties. So welcome, Cody, to the podcast. Appreciate you being on there.
Cecil, thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So, man, as always, it seems like you have accomplished a lot. Me and you have done several deals together. We're working some deals right now, some short sales that we're doing. Can you just kind of tell the audience like how you got started and mainly what you're doing now? I know you're a family man too, so pretty much you got a lot going on. But can you just tell us how did you begin and why did you get into real estate?
I say, how long we got on this show, Cecil?
Look, I'm trying to keep it at 30 to 45 minutes. So you can keep it brief. Maybe.
Okay, all right, I'll do my best, okay? But yeah, keep it short and sweet here. I mean, I really got started back around, it was probably around 2005, 2006 or so, right before the big financial crisis, a few years before that. And I actually bought a condo. It was a 2-bedroom condo with my wife now, and a girlfriend at the time. And so we ended up buying a condo together and moved in about halfway through college. And so we started living in that condo, and that was sort of the first property that we ever purchased. And what we ended up doing at the time is I was working construction at the time, but we were also waiting tables at Chili's. So I love Chili's, Chili's restaurant. But we're waiting tables there to make cash money on the weekends, working Friday nights, Saturday nights, double shifts, all that stuff. And we come to find out we had that extra bedroom at the condo. And a lot of these waiters and waitresses, had that extra cash, and a lot of them always moved from place to place, different apartments and things like that. And so we had the great idea, well, hey, let's go ahead and lease out the separate bedroom to one of our friends at Chili's. And so we ended up doing that, and that sort of became a regular thing to where for a couple years, we just kept leasing out that second bedroom. And so that was really kind of our first foot getting into real estate. And to even take a step further back, that property was, if you're familiar with the Gardere area, sort of real low income type properties. And so this condo was not in a great place, but we were able to pick it up at a great deal. And with the construction experience I had working those few years throughout college, I was actually able to go in and I did a bunch of the rewiring myself, plumbing, floors, paint, baseboard, the work, and sort of got that place fixed back up to top shape. And so we had some built-in equity right from day one. And then on top of that, leasing out that extra bedroom, we were basically at the time had little to no expenses except for that condo note and insurance, taxes, those kind of things. And so just that income, I think it was $500-600 for that one bedroom, all expenses included, was able to pay pretty much all of our expenses at that time. And so that was really the first time that I said, you know what, this could work out pretty good. I like this real estate thing.
So hold up. So your wife was on board. Y'all had leased out another room, and something just clicked off and said this could be something that can actually build up and it can be a continual rental income for you. Now it sounds like you already have a construction background. Is that true, or it seems like you did a lot of work yourself? So you've always been in construction, or know a little bit about doing rehabs and everything like that, or what?
Let's see. We'll give you a little background on that. So I actually grew up in Houma, Louisiana, and I actually grew up in a single mother type situation. And so my mom, love her to death. She did the best she could, but not super handy construction wise and things like that. And so really growing up, I never really had anybody to show me about, construction and, how to do sheetrock and just general, handyman stuff around the house. But really once I got to college, I had to get a good job that can, make some regular income for myself. And so I got a construction job just because it was one of the only things I could get at the time. And I'm telling you, just starting from like the very bottom and then just building up from there, I learned so much in a short period of time. And so, just that little bit of time doing construction, I really picked up a lot that I was able to use. But really prior to college, so prior to 2004 or so, I really had little to no construction experience at all. So it was very, very limited. I actually remember it was during high school, I believe. One of my friends he made fun of me for this for quite a while. But I remember trying to build a dog fence in the trailer that we were living at the time, trying to build a dog fence around the yard for my dog at the time. And I remember trying to knock the stakes into the ground. It was some metal stakes, and I was actually using a rubber hammer to try and knock these stakes into the ground. So just to give you an example of how bad I was at construction and how much I just didn't know anything. And so that rubber hammer was just completely tore up within like 2 or 3 stakes. And so I ended up calling in some friends to come help me out. But just to give you an example, I really until college did not know much at all.
Wow, wow. Well, look at you now. So let's fast forward to where you are now. You have built this company, Empire Trading, and I think you got a couple of other companies. So I think you're in a property management too and turnkey. How many properties have y'all accumulated since you started in real estate right now?
Ooh, man, see, so it'd be hard to give you such a hard number on that. But I mean, just to put it in perspective, I mean, Empire Trading, is a company that I formed with a business partner that I have. And since 2012, I mean, we've done hundreds of houses between flip houses and rental properties, residential and some commercial properties as well. And so it's really been quite a few. And of course, some of the properties that maybe we try to sell them and they don't sell, we continue to just add to our rental portfolio as time goes on. And then even times like right now, where the market's kind of slowing down, and even over the last year or so, we've been dealing with the flood and all, and I'm sure we can get into that later. But within the last year, the market has kind of slowed for us. So we've actually, from going and get new investment properties, so we've actually turned to some of our rental properties to start selling those as well. So really, our portfolio is always properties going in, properties going out, and just trying to make the best of the markets at any given time.
Right, right. So sounds like you've done pretty much as far as creatively, y'all done what, lease options, owner finance. I know what I read, you look for a lot of distress, but right now with the market being the way it is, are y'all still doing owner financing? Or those type of leads, those are the type of leads that you're looking for? Are you still buying wholesale deals? Or tell me a little bit about what y'all looking for right now.
Sure, sure. So the market, Sure, sure. So the market, ever since 2016, we had that big flood that hit, and I mean, there was a lot of low-hanging fruit that everybody was able to grab. But the last year or so, that sort of dried up, and so we've had to kind of go to other measures, and so we've been doing a lot more of sort of going back to auctions. We do work with a lot of wholesalers to try and get deals as well, and I love my wholesalers. I mean, they go out and find these great deals, and Cecil, even yourself, man, you had brought us some great deals over the years. And I hope we continue to do more deals in the future as well. But I look forward to those wholesale deals and going out and just scouting these auction properties. And also, we try and do, we've sort of upped our advertising over the years, to where now we have a few billboards out there. We got a few different websites and that lead generation and things like that. And we're looking for those distressed properties that might be 40, 50, 60% undervalued that we can go in and actually do work to increase that equity, and depending on the property in the area, either sell it for a quick profit or go ahead and keep that property as a rental property. And then you mentioned about the owner financing and lease purchase and things like that. We have done some owner financing in the past, but I've had some bad experiences with that. So I've sort of let the owner financing part go. And just a real quick note on that is with the owner financing, you're basically giving title over. And so if they end up not paying, you have to go through the full foreclosure process, and it's a big, big process. And I had a couple deals where we lost a lot of money on. So I find the better way is to do more of a lease purchase type setup, because if they end up not paying, then you're able to evict them like a traditional tenant. They essentially lose their option fee, their non-refundable payment that they would put up, and then you can evict them like a regular tenant. So I find that's a safer thing to do, and it still gives that buyer or that tenant a potential to buy that property and have an equity stake in there, as long as they keep up their end of the bargain.
Right. So are you doing more a single family or multifamily, or is there a preference that you're looking at right now, or if it's just a good deal, period?
Pretty much a good deal, period. But I mean, I'll tell you overall, just in summary, we started off originally, like I said, we bought that first condo down in Gardere, back in 2005 or so. And
Still have that, Cody?
I still got it.
Have it?
Still got it.
Wow.
Yep, still got it. So stays leased out, and I love it. So I really don't want to sell it. I'm just kind of attached to it. So because it was just it was that first one, and it does cash flow pretty good. Now, the problem with it being a condo, and I'm sure some other property investors will agree with me, is with most condos you're going to have those HOA dues. And so a lot of times those HOA dues are going to cut big time into your profits, because you have no control over what the HOA is doing with those dues, really, in most cases. And so, but yeah, to answer your question, we started off with more of those, kind of condos, and actually started off with multifamily. The second property I bought was a fourplex on Ned Avenue, which is even deeper down in Gardere, and pretty rough area. And but I'll tell you what, when I was first getting started, at the time, didn't have property managers, didn't have anything. It was me and my wife, and that was it. And so I remember going down there almost every day and fixing leaky sinks, fixing holes in sheetrock, turning over units, collecting rent, and doing all those different things. And so in the beginning, definitely a lot more fourplexes, duplexes, multifamily, just because they're a lot, I don't want to say cheaper, but a lot easier and lower cost to get into. And then the returns on it are typically a lot higher on your low income type properties like that. But you're also dealing with a lot of high turnover rate. Usually they'll kind of trash the units, a lot more likely for that happening. Not to say it doesn't happen in higher units as well, but so over the years we've sort of transitioned from those lower income properties to more of the middle income, single family residential properties, averaging anywhere from maybe 125 to maybe 200,000 ARV, that the property be worth. And so that's kind of the range that we're in as far as rentals right now. And I really love that area because you have a good asset that's going to continue to appreciate, and most of your tenants that are going to move into these middle income type properties are in that price range. Typically they'll sign a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year lease, and they'll stay in that property for a long time, and you have a better chance of them continuing to pay. And you got a long-term tenant that actually will take care of the property as you're appreciating, and of course getting the tax benefits and everything else that comes with owning real estate.
Right, right. So is there a formula that you're using to buy these properties, or is there a certain percentage that you look for, that you can kind of share with us how you pretty much purchase your properties? Is it the repair ARV with the amount of repairs needed? How are you deciding on how to buy these properties?
Sure. So the long story is we actually have I have a spreadsheet that I built a couple years back, and it's sort of my fix and flip worksheet. And what I do is I'll put in all the numbers for the deal, what I'm purchasing at, what I expect the rehab to be, closing costs when I purchase, potentially closing costs when I sell it. Anything I might give the buyer as far as the buyer as far as concessions go, and I work in some miscellaneous expenses. I have my loan expenses. So in this worksheet, I'm able to put in all these different numbers, and by doing that, it'll sort of spit out a number at the bottom to let me know what my potential return on investment might be, my ROI, or what my potential cash that I'd be able to take away from that deal. And so, really what I'm looking for anytime I pick up a flip property is about a 20 to 25% return on those properties. And just based on my experience, usually if I'm shooting for 20 to 25, things will come up that are unexpected. Maybe the property will have trouble selling, the market might change or something drastic like right now that's going on with the coronavirus and everything. But, I shoot for 20 to 25 knowing that that number may end up at about 15. And so I'd rather overshoot. And if I get lucky, it's a great deal. But if it drops down to 15% return, 15% is still a great return on an investment for a flip property.
Right, right. So let's go back. I know we were talking about the 2016 flood. How many properties did y'all actually buy, and were you affected by the 2016 flood? Did you have a lot of properties affected that y'all had to rehab and redo? Or tell me a little bit about that, because I think y'all kind of came out real good afterwards, huh?
Yeah, it didn't seem that way at first, though. Yeah, so 2016 was a really hard year, and not just for ourselves, but for a lot of people. I mean, it was just a really tough time for everybody in Baton Rouge, Denham Springs, and all the surrounding areas that were affected. And, you know, even though we got hit pretty hard during that event, I really consider ourselves sort of lucky in a way because, at least we were set up in a position to where we had contacts with banks and contractors and, people that, we knew that can come in and help us to get back on our feet again. To where a lot of other people didn't have that. They kind of went into this and this was brand new. They had to figure out, how to hire a contractor, where to look. And, of course, everybody's getting pulled in all these different directions. And so overall, I mean, it was a really rough time, but we were able to come back strong. But in the flood itself, I had my personal house flooded. So I got about 1.5 feet of water in my personal home. And then we had 11 of our rental properties. I say rental properties. I think it was 9 rental properties at the time and 2 flips that we had going on. So 11 properties total investment wise that flooded as well, with some getting as much as like 6.5 feet of water, which was, I mean, it was devastating. And on top of that, and I know you're aware of this as well, but areas that were in a X flood zone or a low risk flood zone even got water in a lot of cases. And so we had a lot of our properties that had no flood insurance. And so we ended up with about half that had flood insurance and the other half that did not. And so that made things a whole lot more difficult because, now we were having to pull from our reserves or go and try and find other money to basically be able to rehab these properties. And so just a very, very, very tough time, after that event happened.
So is there anything you would tell listeners as far as mistakes or deals that you probably regret you shouldn't have done, or is there just one? I know you probably got, I maybe have multiple ones, but is there one big one that you would have, just could say, hey, I wish I would have never done that one. I should have just passed on.
Man, I'll tell you, there was there was one, and I tell you, if I can go back again, I definitely wouldn't have done this deal. But during the case of like probably a year or two after the flood, this is a year or so ago now, we actually bought a property out in Denham Springs, and it was sort of a small house, probably about 1,100 square feet or so. A little brick home sitting on about 1 acre land in Denham Springs. Well, the house set low. It was probably about 1.5 feet, 2 feet below the base flood zone. So obviously you had that flood insurance. Well, we bought the property with the original idea of just buying it, renovating it, and then turning it into another rental property. Well, as we got to looking at the numbers, we decided that it may be best to try and basically demo that house and raise it above the base flood and do a, either a spec house or move a house from another location or something along those lines. Well, we probably should have done a brand new spec house because the route we ended up going ended up being really, really bad for us. But we ended up buying a house in North Baton Rouge that was kind of near the Exxon plant. And so we got a great deal on the house, and we had it moved from North Baton Rouge to Denham Springs. So the whole house was cut in half and relocated to this lot in Denham Springs. And so we could share some pictures. I don't know if you have a way of maybe sharing some pictures or some videos with the viewers, but I could send you some pictures to share. But man, this house was cut in half. The whole roof had to be taken off because it had to go under bridges while it was traveling on the road, which that in itself was a whole 8-hour process to go from North Baton Rouge to Denham Springs.
How much does is it the same amount they charge to do mobile homes and houses to move them? Because I think it's pretty expensive, huh?
Yeah, it's for a house, definitely a lot more expensive than a trailer. Because in a, unless you're dealing with a double wide, those are cut in half. But most of the time, those double wides are made to be cut in half so they can travel. But when you take a regular house and have to cut it in half, build temp walls for it to travel, take the roof off, I mean, the house that we bought when it got to the lot looked nothing like the house that we bought. I mean, it looked terrible. And so really, we basically at the end of the day ended up paying for a couple of 2x4s, overpaying for a few 2x4s that showed up at the job site there to rebuild this house. So going back and doing it all over again, I think the best course would have been to probably pour a slab or do a pier and beam and just build a spec house on that lot. And so yeah, so if anybody's thinking about moving a house, make sure you put in a lot of contingencies. So that way you got some room in there for air in case something goes wrong. But I will say it was an amazing learning process. And, that's one thing, if you want to share with the viewers, let them know is, even though these bad things might happen, you might have deals that you lose money, you might have deals that just things go array and just are terrible. But usually, you know what? Those are the best cases that you can learn from and you can grow from as an investor and a person. And I think that's so important for people to understand that, everybody wants to look at it like, I lost money, I'm a failure, I'm never doing a house again, or, this is too hard. Well, you know what? That's part of it because the more you fail, yes, you might take a step back, but you get a chance to reevaluate everything that you're doing, your systems, your processes, how you're funding deals, how you're evaluating deals. And when you start going back out to get that next deal, you're going to be better and stronger than you were on that first deal or that deal you did prior. And so I think that's so important.
Right. That brings me to my next question. Like, for a person that's brand new, what advice would you give to that person trying to get into real estate? It's so much out there on social media. It's so much content. It can be a little overwhelming. And I know you have your show. We'll talk about that at the end.
Sure.
What things would you advise a person that's a new beginner that just say, I don't even know where to start? What
Yeah.
would you advise or tell that person where he needs
Yes.
to start, she needs
Yeah.
to start?
So actually, I do have this on one of my websites on empireyourlife.com. I actually have it's a little pamphlet giveaway that actually talks about sort of the 5 steps, to sort of getting started with real estate the right way. And so, if they want to check that out on empireyourlife.com, they can go ahead and check out and get that free pamphlet as well. But just to sum that little pamphlet up there, the biggest thing I think is, for one, is education. You need to educate yourself, whether it's YouTube or, especially mentors like, Cecil, like I look at you as one of my mentors, learning from you with short sales and wholesaling deals and advertising and things like that. And so, I think surrounding yourself with people that are stronger than you in certain areas, or know more than you, people that have been down that road before, I just think that's so, so important. And just continuing to gather that information because, it is a very risky venture. If you go in and just buy a property and you don't know what you're doing, you could lose a lot of money. And, more than just losing a lot of money, you're going to get your feelings hurt. You're going to get down on yourself. And if you lose a lot of money on that first deal, chances are you're never going to do a deal again because you're going to think it's too hard, it doesn't work. But if you educate yourself and you walk yourself into it the right way, you can have a successful first deal, and then you'll want to repeat that process and repeat it even better than you did the first time. And so I think getting that education and just asking questions, surrounding yourself with those people that know more than you and can provide that education and just sort of slow stepping it in to getting started.
So let me ask you, how long did it take you? Did you start off without a coach? Obviously, when you got your first property, afterwards, when did you realize, hey, I need more coaching, I need more education in this area in order for me to go to the next level?
Yeah.
What made that click for you and just say, because I mean, there's a lot of coaches out there. I've invested in coaching, I still do, but there may not be some good coaches out there for everybody. I mean, what made you get into coaching and, that successfully, obviously it helped you to where you are right now?
So the way, I mean, to really get into that, I got to go way back into my past. But but growing up, that's what I said. How long we got today? But it's
Right.
but But going going back into my past, grow up again like a single mom, single mother household, and so we grew up kind of poor, didn't really have a lot of access to resources and people. I mean, I didn't really even know that many people that own their own houses, where we lived at and the people that I was surrounded with. But that sort of built a drive in me from a young age because one of my biggest things was I always wanted to own my own house. And so even at an early age, I started trying to buy books on real estate and just trying to educate myself as much as possible. And so, over the years, I found friends and mentors and coaches that have sort of helped me in different areas along the way. But really, just in general, going through, YouTube, going through books, you can learn so much information. And of course, like you said yourself, not everything is good. Not every coach is good. So you got to be mindful about what you're looking at and what you're reading. But if you talk to three or four different people and they're all recommending the same thing, or three or four or five different books and they're all recommending the same thing, and you start to see some overlay there, there's a great chance that that is some good solid information. And so if I could recommend, just try and educate yourself with a lot of different tools and resources. Don't just go to one resource or one coach and think that, they know everything. I'm going to do everything just like they did and I'm going to be successful, because I guarantee that is a guarantee for you to be unsuccessful if you do that. So because what works for one person, what works for me or what works for you, Cecil, doesn't work for everybody. And so it's important that you sort of look around at what everybody is doing, educate yourself from different areas, and find what makes you tick, what you're excited about, and what you want to continue to improve on. And I think that's going to be very important for people as they get started.
So you mentioned books. Are there some books you can share that maybe you're reading now, have read in the past, that you can share with our audience that you may recommend?
So I'll tell you one book that actually changed my life a few years ago, and it's called The 4 Hour Work Week, and so it's actually by Tim Ferriss. It's a 4 Hour Work Week. Have you read it, Cecil? Or?
Yep, I have.
Oh man, such a good book, such a good book. And so it changed my life a few years ago, and I say that because you know when I first got started with this, it was myself and my wife, and we were doing everything. Like we were the bookkeepers, the maintenance, the management. We did everything, every single thing, buying the properties, trying to scout for money. It was just us, and I was afraid to try and ask for help. I was afraid to have a team. I was afraid to, bring other people in. I didn't know if I could trust them. I didn't know what that was going to do for my business, if it was going to be helpful or not. And so the 4 Hour Work Week really broke down for me on how using the art of leverage, not just with money like we do in real estate, but the art of leverage with people, finding other people that are successful in their areas and use them to help you, and at the same time you're helping them in their business as well. And because you do not have to be the best at everything, and you can't be. And so the 4 Hour Work Week I think is a great read. And so anybody that's getting started, especially if you're in the beginning, because if you could start getting in that mindset of that 4 Hour Work Week and start thinking about hey, bookkeeping and QuickBooks is kind of hard to keep up with. I'm not really that good at accounting. Go and hire a bookkeeper. Find a bookkeeper that, for $100 a month can keep up with all your books. Because I guarantee that $100 a month is so much more worth it than you spending hours and hours and hours trying to figure it out. And then it's probably not going to be perfect at the end of the day anyway. And so I think that was a very important read for me, was the 4 Hour Work Week.
Right. It's good you expressed that, how important it is to have a team too. Because I started off without a team. Then I learned about VAs and how important it is to have VAs. And I think a lot of people who don't have teams, they like a one-man band. They're trying to do everything. If you're trying to wholesale, you're trying to do short sales. Man, you really need some help. And that's one thing I've learned. Just these are things you need help with. So, and I think with your team, how many real estate agents do you have right now?
So we actually, so to be honest, so we had, after 2016, we had a big boom in our business where our business exploded. We started to talk about those first few months, probably the first 6 months after the flood, where things just sort of tanked down. We had, 11 properties flooded, investment properties, and my personal house. So, but to continue on that, after that 6 months, we were able to turn that sort of disaster into an opportunity and we were able to go in and start buying lots and lots of houses. And so at that time, right around the time I read the 4 Hour Work Week, I was able to implement those strategies. And so we were able to buy a ton of houses. And by doing that, I also had to increase my team size. And so now to talk about team size, I think there's an inner team and then you have an outer team. Inner team is going to be those people that work sort of directly for you. You talk to them on a daily basis. That might be your direct employees. It might be your virtual assistant. People, marketing people, people that are doing things for you on a daily basis. Then you have your outer team, which is sort of your 1099 people that, maybe you're hiring accountants or contractors or, surveyors, inspectors, appraisers, all these different people. I consider that sort of your outside team. They're still part of your team, but you're maybe not dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. But that's still part of your team, and it's very important that you build those contacts and those relationships, and you just continue to nurture those relationships as time goes on. Because as you continue to grow in this business, you're going to have to lean on them more and more and more.
Right, right. So basically, have you outsourced pretty much everything? Are you involved still a lot in different projects that you do, or have you just pretty much outsourced everything?
Yeah. So within the last year, we've sort of had to downsize a lot of things just with the way the market has been. So, because like I was saying, we had that big boom, 2017, 2018. Well, going into 2019, as it was a lot harder to start finding deals, I had to, which unfortunately I really hated to do this, but we had to start sort of letting go of some of those inner teammates that we had hired on just because there wasn't enough inventory that was coming on board, to be able to keep everybody busy and to keep moving forward. And so really over this last year, I've sort of had to jump back into some roles and do some things myself again, but I still have that outer team that I was talking about that I talk with, almost on a daily basis as well to keep all the projects going.
Right, right. Well, look, we're coming to the end of the show, and I wanted to ask you, what's your prediction as far as with the market right now?
Ooh, man,
Prediction, I mean, so many uncertainties right now.
man.
Um, I mean, what do you think is gonna happen? I mean, are you buying now? Are you waiting? I'm sure you being very wise at, what you're looking at. So can you just kind of tell the audience what you think, especially in our market too, in the Louisiana Baton Rouge market?
I'll tell you, Steve, so that's a really good question, and I think that's the question that's on everybody's mind right now. And I just wish I had that crystal ball, so to be able to look into it and know, a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, what this was going to look like. So, but with all the research that I've been doing and looking around, I mean, nobody, I'll say this to start, nobody has ever been through anything like this. I mean, even going back to like past pandemics and things like that, the world that we live in today is totally different than things were, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it was for the last pandemics. And so nobody really knows what's going to happen. They're trying to compare to past times in the markets and things that have happened, but nobody really knows. So all we could do is sort of speculate based on the information that we have. And the way that I'm seeing it right now, I'm sure you heard the stimulus program that Trump put out there. So there's a lot of money going to small businesses, and so any of our real estate investors out there, if you've been in business prior to February, I definitely recommend get onto like the SBA website and see what you can apply for as far as relief programs, because there is a lot of money being thrown around right now for small businesses to basically be able to keep you afloat, and also they have some payroll protection programs out there to help you keep your employees and your team together, that inner team, to be able to keep that inner team together. And so, if you haven't already, take advantage of it, because I think it is only a limited resource that's out there. And so I would say step number one is definitely look at that. The next thing that I see happening is in the market today, there's not really a lot of showings going on. So I think buyers are afraid to go into people's houses because they don't know if somebody was there prior that maybe had the virus. And then at the same time, sellers are also pulling their properties off the market because they don't want buyers that potentially are carrying the virus to come in either. And so, I think right now everybody's sort of a standstill. So if you have properties on the market you're trying to sell, chances are it's just sitting there. So I know we have about 5 or 6 houses right now ourselves that I've done. Between those 5 or 6 houses, we've only done maybe 2 showings in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And so it's really died down a lot. But what I think is going to happen is as all this stimulus money starts to get into everybody's pocket and bank account, which should be by the end of April, and by that point, I think we're going to start to see that curve. They keep throwing the curve flattening around. And so I think we're going to start to be on the backside of that curve by the end of April. People will start getting money in their pockets and start feeling a lot better. And then also it's summertime too. So, moving forward a few months, August is going to be here. Schools are going to start back up in August. So I firmly believe that, we're going to be back on a regular schedule come August. We might still have to take some precautions, and there might be some social distancing that's still going on. But for the most part, I think we'll be back to sort of regular business come August. Now, the real estate market itself, I think we're going to see a big boom in house sales come basically the middle to end of May and throughout June and July. I think people are going to get their confidence back. They're going to have access to funds because also too, the fact that the Fed cut interest rates so low, it is so cheap to go out and get a loan right now. And so if you can qualify for a mortgage, it is a perfect time to do it. And so I think a lot of buyers are going to take advantage of that. And because we have this sort of pent up demand right now, I think May, June, and July are going to be big months for us as far as, selling and buying. I really believe that. Now, for the investment side, though, I think there are going to be some people that are hurt from this. I think there's going to be a lot of people that do lose their jobs, can't find work for a while, potentially end up in bad situations. So I think within a few months we may see an uptick of short sales, foreclosures, and things like that are going to hit the market as well. Which, of course, as investors, that's kind of what we're looking for, to come in and I want to say not just come in and take advantage of these people's situation, but to come in and actually help them. And I know some of the deals we work, especially one that we're working right now, in these short sale situations, you're able to come in and actually help this person out of a bad situation, before it gets any worse. And so, that's something I want all investors to look at as well. Is, don't look at it as you're going in and taking advantage of these people at their low point. But a lot of times, if you do it the right way, you're going in there and helping them out.
You're providing the service, and that's what we do. We have different skills, specialized knowledge, and we help people. That's with my last podcast, that's what I had talked about, just what's going on with the CARES Act and what President Trump has signed with the stimulus, because a lot of people are doing forbearances right now, is not reporting to their credit. Of course, they still would have to pay that at a set time. But, so many people, unfortunately, are living from paycheck to paycheck. And when things like this happen, some people still don't recover. And we know that even from the 2016 flood, people filed forbearances and they couldn't really recoup. So unfortunately, yeah, it will probably be a lot of short sales and pre-foreclosures. But at the end of the day, thank God there's people out there that have knowledge and that can help. So, but I want the audience to know before we end, how can they get a hold of you? I know about what you're doing, your social media. Can you kind of just let your listeners know how they can get a hold of you if they have any questions, any deals? I know you may offer some coaching. Can you kind of just let the listeners know how to get a hold of you?
So you could, so pretty much any social media outlet you could find me. It's just at Cody Horn, and it's Cody with a K, like kite. So KODYHORN, and you could find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and the big one is YouTube. So I know we're kind of running short on time here, but I did start a YouTube channel as of January 1st of this year, and a lot of it is talking about real estate and for how people can get started, and people that are already in it, how they can continue to get better. And I talk about a wide range of topics, just like you do here on the podcast. And also mixed into that as well on that YouTube channel is to talk about not just how to grow your business, your empire, your business empire, but also how to grow yourself, the empire within yourself as well. And just to be a completely well-rounded person between your mindset, your relationships, your health and fitness, your spiritual life, which is so important, wrapping it up with your career, having fun, with family and friends, and just enjoying life. Because so many entrepreneurs, I'm sure you would agree that, sort of get in this grind, and, they just want to, keep working and building and making more money. And then they look back behind them, a year, 2, 5 years, and they're like, what happened to my life? Where you could have been having all these good moments. And so, having fun. And then, the seventh one that I always talk about is building wealth. And so those are sort of the seven main areas that I talk about that, you need to be focusing on all those to some extent, whether it's every day or every week, to continue to build your empire within yourself as a person. And so Empire Your Life is sort of the name of the YouTube channel, but you could find it at my name as well, so just at Cody Horn on YouTube. And so everybody can reach out there. So please feel free to send me any messages, questions. I'd love to help you out much as I can.
And I'll put Cody's information in the show notes. So again, I appreciate you, Cody, for being on the podcast today.
Please.
And
Thank you.
As always, keep doing what you're doing. I know you're helping a lot of people. You've helped me with some things too. We've helped each other. Stay safe out there. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for watching this video, and if you're ready to take your business to the next level, hit that subscribe button below and become a part of the Empire Your Life community. And if you see the videos over to the side here, they're exactly what you need to see next. Get out there and build your empire.